Welcome to the R course and a lecture on data wrangling. We'll be working with a bunch of different tools today on wrangling data. I'm Cory Whitney, and you can contact me if you have any questions or concerns, either through our shared Slack channel or via email. We're going to wrangle our data. That is, our data is, in this analogy, considered to be a sort of messy collection of these cows, all these data points and variables. Maybe you have them entered into some kind of a spreadsheet, and you're trying to figure out how to work with these in the R interface. You got a bit of an overview of how some of this can work from Lisa on day one in R basics. And now we're going to talk about some of the tools that I like to use in my workflow in order to get my data into a format that I can work with. So just again, to talk about how we're interfacing with these things. Right now, I've got, of course, the Slack channel open. Every day, I'm going to put the materials. We'll put them into the channels. That's the channels here. In the general channel, I put the lecture materials, that file for the first day, that is the overview of the tools. I put that into that general channel so that you can just watch it from there. You don't need to work on SIBO. And the way I'm working locally on my computer, on my machine now, I've got a copy of our SIBO folder where I see Lisa and I have a folder, but there's also the student folder, and I put these tools for the course here. And that's where I've linked to this. And I've also got, as we discussed before, I've got my own native filing structure. I hope that you have one that you like. Please discuss with each other, again, to make sure you find one that works for you and that's sensible. For me, I've got everything, not only in this course and for a few other things, I've got everything backed up on SIBO, but I've also got it backed up of the main tool that I use. As I said, I don't interface very much with SIBO, just for this course and a few other things. But I do interface with Dropbox, and that's my cloud. So I keep everything on Dropbox, all my contributions. These are papers, lectures for TSEF, and then here, the Teaching R course, where I have a folder just for this R project that is made with with R Studio, R project. So I'm going to open that. I hope you have a similar system going on. I'm going to open that, and you'll see it opens here in the R Studio user interface, and I can start thinking about what I want to do here. So the day is data wrangling. So the first thing, just to be totally transparent, I wrote this for last year's course, and there have been a few changes to the R programming language in the meantime. Is first of all walk you through some of the work that you can do and sort of the outline for data wrangling, and then we'll go into some of the specifics in R script. So I'm just going to open this presentation. So what we're going to talk about is tidyr. This is the hex sticker for the tidyr library. We're going to talk about dplyr. That's another library. R libraries often have these hex stickers. You'll notice, if you were with me, you would notice my laptop is covered in these things. I'm a big fan of R libraries. So I'm going to give you a few notes on the R programming language. I'm going to talk about tidy code and how to have good style, or how at least to have a neat kind of style using this tidyr library. I'll give you a few ideas about how I think the dplyr library is a way to do clean and intuitive. In dplyr, you have some pretty easy to follow programming styles and names. And then if you're interested, this is again a bonus, but we can use the MagReader package. That's a way to make your code more concise. So I'm going to give you a few notes to follow another transplanted American. He's living in the south of France, I believe, Andrew McDonald. You can follow him, Polisunder, on Twitter. I highly recommend that. Very interesting research and also lots of good ideas about R. In one of his blog posts, he said, it's a hedonistically artistic left brain paint in your hair sort of experience. We learn how to code the way as children we learn how to play around in nature, the way we learned about nature, flipping over rocks and trying to find animals and stuff. And once the ecstasy of creation is swept over us, we awake the next morning to find our canvas covered with 2,100 lines of R code, our heads throbbing with a statistical absent hangover. We trudge through it slowly over days, trying to figure out what we did. So the idea here is that it's like you get so excited and you write lots of things, and then at the end, it's just lots and lots of code, and you save that file, but you can't even remember what it does, and actually it doesn't run anymore, and maybe there are some issues, or you wrote the same thing several times in different formulas or different formats, and you don't remember what it is that you wrote there. Learning R, you will find, or learning any programming language, you will find that if you don't annotate your files, if you don't mark what you've done really well, if you don't keep careful track of the steps that you've taken and why, then you are going to get lost. And somebody told me your closest collaborator is you in the future. And you in the future, your closest collaborator wants to communicate with you, but you are in the past, so you can't answer emails, you can't answer the phone, you won't answer WhatsApp, you won't communicate about what it is that you've done. And so you in the future has no way to work with their closest collaborator unless that very close collaborator is a good collaborator and they make lots of really detailed notes about what it is that they're doing. So the one alternative is to just stay super focused, right? You start writing, you're programming, you're moving formulas around, you're building really complex models, and then somebody says, hey, excuse me, do you have a second? You turn away and poof, it's gone. You lost track of what you're doing. So keeping track of your work, that's what I'm going to make this little portion of our talk about. Keeping track of your work is really about doing good annotation within these code chunks or within these R scripts that you save. So I want you to keep it tidy. That's the idea here. Tidy means really clean, like you clean up your room. Probably all of us have really clean rooms right now because we're stuck at home with not much else to do. I hope you're using your time well. So we're going to use this little hashtag to annotate a line of code and not run it. At the end of the course, you may have a sense of how to use R Markdown. That's good. You can build nice HTML files. But if not, then you may also use these symbols, that is 4 lines like this, or that's 4 minus signs, 4 dashes, or 4 hashtags. That'll give you a header. So that would be section 1, section 2, section 3, and you get a TOC, a table of contents, in the upper right console when you do these things. So I'm going to just grab these so you can see. You've learned some of this from Lisa, but let me just show you again. So I'm here in my R studio. You're going to open a new R script. And then if you wanted to write code, then you could write, let's name something, an object, new object, and I could assign something to it. It's 4, right? So my new object, if I run that line, then my new object down here, you can see my new object is 4. So, but if I want to not run a line of code, that's what I wrote here. I cannot run the line of code with a hashtag. So if I put a hashtag here, for example, it will no longer run. If I run, nothing happens. This one is trying to run this because it thinks it's a line of code. But now you can see, since it ends with these 4 marks, right? Let's put 4 here too, 4 or more. Then this TOC in the upper right-hand corner. Again, I'll try to zoom in. It'll be a bit pixelated, but this TOC, table of contents, in the upper right-hand corner. So that symbol in the upper right-hand corner of your RStudio program, or of that panel of RStudio, contains a table of contents. That's quite useful for me because I'm always writing these really long codes, and I want to find my way through them. Right, this is pretty short, actually, 430 lines, but it's super overwhelming for future me. Maybe, and actually, as I said before, I wrote this in the past, so now here I am today as future me, looking at this, and if there were no annotations, and I would say honestly, I'm a little upset with past me because there really are not enough annotations here to tell me what's going on. This is a mix of HTML and R, and it's written in a way that's not completely transparent. Anyway, here you go. You've written some code. You give it some nice notes about what it is that you're doing. We make a new object. And the best thing to do for a future you, the best thing for you, the close collaborator of future you, the best thing you can do as a good collaborator is to not only say what it is, but then to say, I make this. Right? Somehow you want to make notes so that it's clear what's really going on here. Yeah, this might be, I mean, in a normal situation where you're doing some kind of research, of course, this will be some kind of a formula that describes a process or makes a step on the way to doing a statistical analysis or provides a statistical analysis. And in all of these cases, you'll want to, let's see, let's make a list of 4, 3, 2, and then let's say mean new object. See if that works. The mean is 3, right? So then I can say mean new object. Now, mean new object is something that is the product of a statistical analysis. Maybe I want to store that for some reason. So now I also, this is all just hypothetical, just telling you how to go about using these TOCs. Now I'm going to say mean new object. And I'm going to write here some, maybe I want to have a title there, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Or more, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have, and it can also be all kinds of minuses and stuff, as long as there are 4 of whatever, as long as the line ends with 4 of whatever it is or more in a row, then it will give you a header here, so I can find later when this section becomes very long and this section very long, I'll be able to find section 3 easily, section 2, and mean of new object easily in my code. Again, here you would write yourself a detailed explanation about where you found the statistic, maybe even try to understand what mean does. Again, this is a function. I looked it up with a question mark mean here, and I can find the help file for that. And it tells me that this is base, that means base library, that is base R is where I find mean, and mean wants to have x in this case equals new object. That works just the same, still 3. So that's better, that's maybe even, not a lot of people do that, I don't always do that, but that's a little bit neater when you're programming if you do an x there, so that you can always find out later what it is that you were making arguments about, what kind of parameters you were providing for. So if I wanted to, I could provide a trim, and I could remove any NA values. So right now that's false, so if I put an NA in here, let's see what happens. And I do mean new object, it gives an NA, but if I put here, let's say NA.rm equals T RUE, now I can use that option because mean object, that has to be a comma. So you probably can't see very well what I'm doing. So now I've added this argument from mean, because mean says, if you want, I will remove the NA values, right? NARM usually means NA remove. And I said, yeah, why don't you remove the NA, because there's an NA now in my list, and give me the mean. So that's just the way I can do that. Okay. I think that's for that. So just the main takeaway is not any of this mean stuff. The main takeaway, and I hope I can save you a lot of time, because I certainly lost a lot of time not being able to communicate with past me and being a bad collaborator for future me. So I hope I can save you by providing you with this feedback. Please use these options and give yourself good code annotation so that you can find out later what it is that you did in the past. You will thank yourself. So that's where I'll end this section of the data wrangling process, and just tune into the next to get the next piece. What I would encourage you to do here is to go ahead and set up your own R script if you haven't already during the course of this talk, and put some sections in there so that you can see as you're writing code, or maybe even the code that you wrote yesterday with Lisa. Why don't you go through that now and annotate it and add sections so that you can use that RStudio function to be able to reference down through the document what happened when and what the different parts were. And you can share that with us, and even with your colleagues if you like, for review.